Hey everyone, Benem here again. And well, today we are nearing the end of the OCG week-long marathon, but a new product came out in the TCG, and so we are going to open that. It is Lair of Darkness Structure Deck, and since this is a pretty good structure deck, I decided to get myself three. So we'll open one, and maybe if you guys really want to see a deck profile, almost pure Lair of Darkness, or at least a budget Lair of Darkness deck profile, I will be able to provide one for you guys. So yeah, mention in the comment section down below if you want to see a deck profile for this. But first off, we'll start by opening this and reviewing the actual deck for you guys. So yeah, let's get started. Lair of Darkness Structure Deck Beginner's Guide, so basically the rule book. Oh, that's a pretty cool token. I guess this one comes in this box. That's nice. So those were the rules, guys. I hope you guys learned pretty quickly. So here we have the deck list. You guys can find this on the back of the box, or you can find this online if you want. This is what the game mat will look like. And yes, we do have the token, nice. So these are some little tricks to playing the deck. There are tricks for the tokens, tricks to get the boss monster, stuff you can do with the cards inside this deck. Basically a lot of little hints on how to play the deck, and stuff to look forward to or look out to in previous or future sets. So these two sets will have some pretty good stuff for these for this deck, and these two sets that have come out previously have some pretty interesting stuff to help it too. Like Extreme Force, well, I guess Downbeat is decent. Hey Trunade is pretty good because it keeps your field on the field. Metaverse, a card I was going to suggest, is also suggested by Konami itself. So I mean, Metaverse, very good, and you will understand why as soon as you read the card, but basically it allows you to do as much as get your field on the board or in your hand, and obviously a cash again evenly, but you know, that doesn't really matter. On the other side, we have the field. So like we have the board, which is pretty sweet looking, if you ask me. I mean, those fiends and this dragon just look amazing, and if they make an actual playmat out of this, not just this little mat, but if they have an actual playmat, like this type of material, that would be lovely. So let's get started with the actual deck, guys. A lot of pretty good stuff is in here. Some decent reprints, some new cards that are amazing, and so once I actually get this open, we will be able to review it. There we go. So let's get started. So we have this obviously useless but interesting promotional thing. So I guess you guys try out Duel Links. I sure did, and it's interesting. It's a pretty cool game. But it's a lot random based because you need to get the cards to win, you know? It's just like the actual game, but different. So we start off with Lilith, Lady of Lament. Love the artwork on this card. It's such a simple background, yet it has so much meaning. She looks a lot like a Burning Abyss type of monster, but, you know, it is a Fiend level 3 dark, so I mean, there might be some use. I think this and Skarm can be used together. I'm not too sure anymore. But if this card is normal summon, the original attack becomes 1,000. But it also has a quick effect where you can tribute one dark monster, reveal 3 normal traps from your deck, your opponent chooses one random, and you set it on the field. The rest is shuffled back. But you can only use one of these effects, one of that effect per turn. And it's a 2,000 attack beatstick. If you special summon this using a tour guide, you can tribute her for her own effect, and the effect will resolve because the effect is only negated on the field using tour guide. So that's a pretty interesting thing. But if you use tour guide, it's also a 2,000 attack beatstick. Anyways, Lilith, Lady of Lament, very good card. Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair. Look at that. It's also the Lord of the Glare. Wow, but I love the artwork on this. Looks amazing. I remember the original Diabolos back when I was younger. This card has a pretty great effect. Your opponent cannot tribute this face-up card on the field and cannot target it with the card effects. So it's immune to kaijus, it's immune to the virus cards that are included in this deck, and it's also immune to cards that target, like, let's say, ABC. If a dark monster you control is tributed except during damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when you tributed, or hand even if not. So that's pretty intense. So basically, if you tribute the monster to search for this, you can still summon this because it says even if it wasn't in the hand. But you have to have no, never mind. Well, I'm not too sure on that. But you can only use that effect once per turn. And you can tribute one dark monster. Your opponent places one card on from their hand on either the top or the bottom of the deck. So this is a great card for that reason also. We have a super rare, Arima, the Wicked Warden. You can discard this card and one Lair of Darkness from your deck to your hand. You can tribute one dark monster, draw a card, or if you tributed one dark monster other than this card to activate this effect, you can add one dark monster with 2000 or more defense from your deck to your hand instead. But you can only use this effect once per turn. Still love the artwork. Lair of Darkness, the main card you need to have on the field to use this deck. All face-up monsters on the field become dark. Once per turn, if you would tribute a monster you control to activate a card effect, you can tribute one dark monster your opponent controls, even though you do not control it. Once per turn, during the end phase, you can you have to special summon as many torment tokens as possible to the turn player's field in defense position up to the number of monsters tributed this turn while this card was face up. And it's the number of monsters tributed this turn, not the number of opponent monsters tributed, not the number of your own, but the number of total tributed monsters. And it says tributed, it does not say for your own effects. So if you tribute summon something, it also counts. Be wary of that. That will help you or ruin you. Grinning Grave Virus. So the brand new virus card, and I really find it funny. It has a great smile, I guess. Tribute one dark monster with 3,000 or less attack. So basically any monster that has less than 3,000 or 3,000. Your opponent destroys one card of their choice in their hand or deck for every 500 attack that monster had on the field. If you tributed a monster with 2,000 or more attack to activate this card, look at all cards your opponent draws until the end of their third turn after this card's activation. Destroy all monsters amongst them. Amongst whatever. Cards destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this card's effect cannot activate their own effects that same turn. So basically, if you destroy something that gets an effect when it's destroyed and sent to the grave, well, too bad for them. If you destroy, let's say, Fairy Tale Snow, they can't revive it the turn it's been destroyed. But if this is used against an ABC deck, well, that deck does not care because they don't even get effect from the deck to the grave. So basically, you just give them their pieces to make ABC on their own turn. But yeah, that's kind of like the downside of this. Depending on what deck your opponent has, they might or might not care. But yeah, this is a great card though, because if your opponent doesn't have too many monsters left in their deck, this also will make them lose spells and traps. And it might be useful to do a lot of other things, like stop them from using effects in general, because if they have to send, let's say, 4 cards to the grave for a 2,000 attack monster, well, if they want to keep their spells and traps in their deck and have the possibility of drawing them, well, they will have to send some monsters. And now if they end up sending a card like, let's say, they end up sending to the grave a hand trap, well, bam, they can't use it. Cards destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this card's effect cannot activate their own effects the same turn. So they can't use the effect of the hand trap in the graveyard if they decide to recycle it or anything. They can't use it that same turn. It is a far-fetched thing, but it's still something that's possible. Considering cards like well, I guess do a little Chimera might recycle Ash Blossom. So this could be used against that kind of a combo, I guess, or whatever. It's very far-fetched, guys, but you know. Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord. You can tribute any number of dark monsters, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, it gains 500 attack for each monster you tributed. So this is a great way to use, it's basically this plus Lair of Darkness is like Kaiju, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. But this guy gains attack and your opponent doesn't get a monster. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one level 5 or higher dark monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So recyclability, that's good. You can only use each effect of Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord, once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate either of this card's effect, except dark monsters. And either way, it's a 2000 defense monster, so I mean, you can protect yourself. So Diabolos, the original, not as good as the new one, but you know, if you guys want to read the effect, go ahead. I'm trying to concentrate on the newer cards rather than the old cards. Lich Lord, do not care much for this card, but hey, it's something. Prometheus, another old school card. It used to be in a gold series, and I think these two were also in a gold series back then. I remember having this as a gold rare. Archfiend Emperor, the First Lord of Horror. A lot of tribute summonable monsters, but you do get tokens, so... And there are no restrictions on the tokens. Caius, the Mega Monarch. This is nice. This is a decent reprint. This card is good because you can tribute summon it by tributing a tribute summon monster, and then you banish stuff, you inflict damage, and you can even go to target 2 cards instead of 1 if it's a dark monster. And basically, well, haha, this deck is full of dark monsters. Legendary Majugarzet. This is something I don't see very often. But yeah, this is by tributing all monsters you control, it special summons it. This card's attack becomes a combined original attack of the tributed monsters, and it does piercing damage, so that's pretty interesting. I do like the artwork, though. It looks very sinister. Vanity's Fiend, very cool reprint right here. Easy tribute summoning, and you just stop special summoning in general. But no one can special summon monsters. That includes tokens, so this would shut down Lair of Darkness's special summoning token effects. Mist Archfiend, Beatstick. Infernal Dragon, Beatstick. Archfiend Cavalry, Beatstick. Basically, this is interrupt your opponent's turn and virus them, and then Beatstick them. Stygian's Street Patrol. Basically, it gets you to your Beatsticks. Phantom of Chaos, pretty cool card right here. Plague Wolf, Beatstick. Fiendish Rhino Warrior, very good reprint right here. Fiend monsters you control except Fiendish Rhino Warrior cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. A lot of Burning Abyss decks use this because of that effect. If this card is sent from to the graveyard, doesn't say from the field, you can send 1 Fiend monster from your deck to your graveyard except this card's name. And you can only use that effect once per turn. So if your opponent viruses you, and you send this from your deck to your grave, you get another card to your grave. That's something, I guess. Curry Bandit, because you need to get some Kuribo going. Tour Guide from the Underworld, a lot of reprints for this card, but this is a great reprint nonetheless. Summon this, and go and get yourself Lament, as I was saying earlier today, and well, you get yourself a free trap, and you just mill your own deck a bit, and that's what it's all about, really. I mean, if you get Lament, and then you put this face down, let's say, you don't even need your field. At least, the bare minimum is that you destroy at least 2 cards by tributing Tour Guide, and you just milled your deck for 2 cards at least, so that's pretty decent. And yeah, that's just for Tour Guide. If you had Lair of Darkness, you got yourself a monster that protects you. You got Lair of Darkness, which allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters for grinning, which is even worse for them. Absolute King Backjack, because it's good for your traps. Reling Kuribo, because more Kuribos, but this is also a draw power card when you tribute it. Recurring Nightmare to recycle. Allure of Darkness, great reprint. It's been reprinted tons of times, but it's always a great thing to see because it's still an expensive common. Like, the last reprint it's gotten was common, and it's like a $2 or $3 Canadian card at least, like the minimum. So, great thing to use in here. Hand Destruction, because send Diabolos to the grave, revive him. Foolish Burial Goods, because I guess there are some spell and traps you want to see in your grave in here. It's not that great of a reprint, but it's decent. Boogie Trap, because recycle traps. Fires of Doomsdays, because you can just use them to summon your dark monsters. Veil of Darkness to draw. Crush card, Deck Devastation, Eradicator, and Full Force. 4 more viruses to go with your Grinning, and honestly, this you don't really care for, not that much at least. Full Force and Eradicator are the 2 best of the common ones, because this gets rid of your opponent's spells or traps, and this gets rid of basically all their monsters, because a lot of monsters nowadays have 1500 or less defense. Like, Link monsters don't even have defense. And, well, they do allow you to destroy, to tribute big monsters your opponent controls, like 2000 or more defense, or 2500 or more attack. This is great in decks nowadays, especially against Link decks, because they have some decent attack. Tribute their own Link, they basically lost their turn-ish, and you just destroy their spells or traps. That's mean. Crush card is interesting because of, I think it's Fangs of Critias. There's like Doom, Virus Dragon or something like that. It's interesting. It's not great, but it's interesting. And I mean, at the same time, this does get rid of your opponent's monsters, somewhat. Same for Devastation. We got Dark Light. Tribute 1 dark monster with 1500 or more attack. Destroy all monsters that were special summoned this turn. It's a mean card, but you don't really want to use this. You could. It's pretty useful, but you need your field to make it worth it. Trap of Darkness. Well, basically recycle. Mind Crush, very good in this deck because of the virus cards where you see your opponent's hand. If you see your opponent's hand, and let's say you used this, you said spell, and the opponent has a good trap or a good monster in their hand, Mind Crush it. Just Mind Crush it. Same goes for the monster viruses. If they have a good spell or trap, Mind Crush it before they set or whatever it, you know? Mind Crush is a great way to deal with that. Rise to Full Height. Target 1 face-up monster in the field doubles def, but the def becomes 0. So for cards like Full Force, which says 2000 or more defense, it doesn't say original. So you could just target a monster like, let's say, Plague Wolf. It becomes a 2000 defense monster with Rise to Full Height. I wouldn't use it too often. Like, I wouldn't include this in a normal deck, but if you're playing really budget, this might be useful. Curse of Darkness, each time a spell card is activated, burn for 1000. I mean, that's pretty good. If you don't play a lot of spells and you really want to play this deck with a lot of traps, Curse of Darkness is the way to go. Sinister Yorishiro, each turn 1 level 5 or higher fiend monster in normal summon can be summoned without tributing. This is insane if you really want to play the variant of this deck with, where is Vanity's? There we go. Vanity's Fiend. This is insane with this guy, because it is a Fiend and it's level 6. So you just, boom, normal summon it, and voila, your opponent can't do crap. But this is like a turn 3 or 4 card. It's not that great. Your opponent does have the time to go off beforehand. But hey, I mean, it's a continuous trap. You can mix Vanity's Fiend in this deck with Masterpiece and True Dracos, because they also have some very high attack and defense, so you can use them with viruses, and that works very well. But yeah, if exactly one normal summon set level 5 or higher Fiend monster and no other card would be destroyed, you can send this card to the graveyard instead, so protect your Fiend. And finally, we have the token. So this is the token to go with the field spell. It looks pretty good. I would love to see this as a super rare, but hey, a token is a token. So yeah, basically the big cards you guys want to see if you want to play this deck, any kind of level. You want to see Fiendish at least a few times in the deck. Vanity's Fiend is a good possible card to play, but it doesn't need to be played. You want 3 of this. You want at least 1 or 2 of these, maybe 3 if you wanna. 3 Lair of Darkness for sure. At least 1 of these, but I think this is limited actually, so at least play it. For sure, you need 3 Liliths. That is a very powerful card in here, just like Tour Guide, if I find her somewhere. I do know that you need to play at least 1 Duke, maybe 2, because Duke is a great way to tribute all your opponent's monsters. You need your Allures in this deck. It's an incredibly powerful card. Maybe 1 or 2 Mind Crushes, that wouldn't hurt. Full Force is a very useful card, and here at least play 1, maybe 2, but 1 is the bare minimum. And Fire of Doomsday is interesting, but it's like Scapegoat, but you can tribute the monsters. A Tour Guide is a must play. And obviously, Grinning Grave, I would play at least 1. I do want to play at least 2 or 3 in the deck. But, like, let's say you play 4 virus cards. If you play 4 virus cards, you're good. 5 is excessive, because if you start the game with 5 and you don't have Lair of Darkness in your hand, you're pretty much crapped. But if you have 4, and you want to play 1 of these and 3 of these, 1 of these, 1 of these, and 2 of these, or just 1 of these and 1, but usually you'd go for 4 or 5 virus cards, not to get too many in your hands as a possible first turn hand. But yeah, this has been a quick review. We've seen that there are a lot of great reprints in here, a lot of great cards that we haven't seen before, or cards that we haven't seen too often before. This is a very playable deck. It's not as great as when ABCs first came out, but this is a very powerful deck that I would consider maybe on the level of, let's say, when Monarchs got their deck, or something like that. I'm not too sure, but it's like, it's competitive, but not more than locals, unless you put some very expensive cards in here, like hand traps and stuff like that. But at this level, it's pretty playable. If you get 3 of these, you can get a pretty decent deck. You only need some, like, Solims, some hand traps, maybe a few other cards that, like, Metaverse would help a lot, or Terraforming, Raigeki, Dark Hole, stuff like that would help this deck a lot. But as a structure deck, this is a great way to start. It's way better than Wave of Light, which is kind of sad, but Wave of Light had its good points too. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a somewhat long but short review of the deck with some suggestions for getting it to work better. And yeah, so I hope it helped you guys. I know I will definitely work my way around the 3 I bought, and if you guys want to see a profile, please ask in the comment section below. Until next time, guys, I hope this helped again. Sorry for repeating myself, and Panem out.